This podcast is brought to you by Itopia Life Herb House, where cannabis and culture combine for a one-of-a-kind experience. Visit them at 10A West Kings House Road, just across from the Canadian Embassy. Also follow them on IG at Itopia Life or their webpage at itopialife.com for the latest info on strains and merch.
There you go.
There we go.
And Lothian's Boutique, follow them on Instagram at Lothian's Boutique. You can check them out in Pommer at 23 West Tradeway. And guys, you can use my code RAN10 to get 10% off your next month of purchase. And of course, shout out to Lulu's Holistics for sponsoring this week's podcast. As per usual, use the code TheFix to get 10% off your next buy. Like, go in their store. It's like Black Friday now, so they're gonna have deals upon deals. And you can also use our code to get more deals, more discounts. So The Fix, Lulu's Holistic. Check the description link below.
Shout out our Patreon DB, of course. Shout out to all our patrons who support us on Patreon. You can also support us if you want to become a patron. Patreon.com/thefixja. Fix merch. Go cop the black tee with the white logo, the blue tee with the faded logo, the Fix mask, as well as the Fix cup, as well as our brand new Fix things merch, all up on our merch site right now. Teespring.com stores the Fix JA.
I guess another psychosocial thing that really, or trauma that is a result of the pandemic, we're discussing it off air, like childhood trauma, and children staying home, they're left to the pedophiles, and school would be a use of escapism for that, and trying to escape some of the horrors that they're dealing with in their homes, in their community. Like, how can we as a community, I guess, and a nation on a whole, like, how can we move forward? What can we do now? How can we, just make a note of the situation and how we can change things?
You brought up so many ways it's affecting us, and as I said, it's a great time to just look out for one another. If you see somebody who is disadvantaged and you're able to help financially or emotionally, you reach out. It's a time to reach out and to look out for one another. So, for example, you have some people, their kids have to go to school, always online, and they get laid off, they don't work. If you can help buy a school book or two, help out your friends, help out the kids. Look out for the kids in the community. Just do whatever you can do. Because some of us are better off than others. Some of us still have a job.
Yep.
And some have no job or no social support. If you know elderly people in the community, you shouldn't be going out, you offer to help them out. To buy stuff for them. It's a great time to do that now.
What are the effects, like the long-term effects you think that's going to have on us with this pandemic? You think that there's going to be any long-term effects?
Some people definitely will, because
Not
you have the
just
long-term.
physically.
The long-term physical from the disease is something we don't really know much about, although people can have long-term problems from that and recurring issues. But you're going to have the sequelae, the psychological sequelae of this, because you have people who, for example, may have had depression and anxiety from before, and this made us exacerbate it, make it worse. You have people who never had it before and they develop it now. And when they develop it now, it may be a long road to recovery, because things may happen during this pandemic to precipitate it. Like loss of a job, separation from a loved one. It's affecting a lot of relationships, by the way.
No people are broke up.
No, seriously. Because you have some people in other countries who can't come and they can't travel. They can't see. So it's taking a toll. So you're going to have long-term consequences.
Imagine them long distance relationship, bro.
Why that rough?
That rough, man.
There are people I haven't seen their spouse for months because they're marooned in another country. So you're going to have a lot of that. There's so many aspects, ways in which this is affecting all of us, which is why it nearly always comes back down to just doing what you're supposed to do and respecting the science. The distancing, the mask wearing, and if and when a reliable, effective vaccine comes out, to educate people about how vaccines work. It's important just to understand the principle that vaccines are made to kill off people, but to understand how it works and to be able to just follow the research. That's the best advice I have to give.
What do you think it would take for people to take mental health seriously?
People, for it to be spoken up, let me tell you. One of the first steps, and I have to commend the Ministry of Health on this, is because our Ministry of Health now is speaking about mental health openly. I've never seen a Ministry of Health in this country do that. And I'm very happy about that. So that's one thing. They're talking very much about mental health.
Break the stigma.
And another, that's one thing. Another is to, again, a forum like this to talk openly about mental health. Because, as I said, health is physical, mental, and social well-being. So I have a platform and I use it to speak about mental health a lot because it's stigmatized a lot. To tell people, for example, I have depression. I've had depression for a long time. If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know that because it's managed. I have asthma, but I don't come in here wheezing either because it's managed. So things like I think depression is much more common than people know.
I think the thing is to what you said, you manage it, but there's no space, or there's like the conversation around depression is always to separate away. Like we depend on religion and I guess, the spiritual aspect of.
You see, I believe in taking a holistic approach and a holistic but realistic approach. So if you are, Christianity is the biggest religion in this country. If you're a Christian and a regular church goer and you're strong in your faith and you go to church often, that's really good for depression. It helps.
Because if it's something that you like helps. Doing, it will help too.
Yeah, because the social networking and the belief in a higher power and the belief that power is looking out for you. I don't knock that to help depression, but it's not necessarily going to cure it. And you have different degrees of depression. It's like you have different degrees of, like you have different degrees of drunkenness or being affected by alcohol. You might drink 2 drinks and you just chill. Drink 5 and you like this. Drink 10 and you're flat out.
Yeah.
And if you just drink a little and you say drink some water and just chill out for a while, you go there, you can go home. But if you black out totally, you ain't going nowhere. And flinging water in and make no difference or nothing. No, I'm just saying. So to simplify it now, research.
Right.
Research has shown that if you're a person of faith going to church regularly, your risk of getting depression is a bit lower. It's not foolproof because depression is caused by many different things.
Right.
Some are genetic. Some are as a result of things like childhood trauma or even traumatic events later on in life. But it's important to let people know what it is, what the symptoms are, and how to deal with it. So, for example, I'm very outspoken because I have depression. But if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. But it doesn't govern my life. I just understand that depression is a mood disorder where sometimes your mood will just drop really low. Really low. And like you feel like, man, I didn't feel like coming to my bed star. I'm not talking to nobody's star. But I understand what it is. And it doesn't, I tell people I'm a happy person with depression. It sounds weird because I'm a happy person. But I have this disorder that every now and then I may feel a little different. And I say, you know what, man, not today, not stereo. But over the years, I've learned how to manage it. And it's important that we talk about this, especially with our men. Because I'm very big on depression and men's health too, because a lot of us as men aren't encouraged to speak about our feelings or we're not allowed to be vulnerable.
No.
But that's the thing, because I wanted to ask, what about people who may be depressed, but they don't acknowledge it? So they think that they're fine, but they refuse to speak about it. And a lot of men do that. So how would you reach out or help someone who doesn't even, like, you would see some of the signs and you're saying,
man,
maybe
that's a whole other topic now. If you want to go in there, fine. I have time, but you really don't want to go there.
Maybe they're depressed, but they don't want to talk about it and they really need the help.
So all right. I'm a gynecologist, but every week I send several people to a psychologist or a psychiatrist up to today.
Oh.
Wow.
Because I go into their history. And there's a lot of hurt. And there's a lot of sequelae of childhood trauma. And there's also depression for different reasons. But many people don't even know what depression is. They think depression is just you feel sad and get over it.
Right.
Feeling sad is not depression. Depression is a medical condition. And it's something that has a set of criteria that you use to diagnose it. So if over a period of at least 2 or so weeks, you have
Okay.
persisting symptoms like a change in your appetite, like you're eating too much or not at all, appetite gone, or sleep disturbance, like you're sleeping way too much, or you can't sleep, or you have things like fatigue, you feel fatigued, you forget things a lot, you're not concentrating the way you should,
Yeah.
you lose interest in things you were interested in before, you lose interest in sex, you want to socially isolate yourself, you may even have thoughts of suicide, whatever. If you have a lot of those symptoms, that fulfills the criteria. And the thing about, again, why research is important, because different cultures manifest different disorders differently. So in North America, for example, a white man in North America is more likely to go to his doctor and say, "Doc, I'm depressed." In our culture, many people with depression present with what we call somatization. Somatization is when you present with physical symptoms. So like this week, you go to the doctor because you have back pain. Then next month, you have belly problems. Then next month, you have headache. Then you have neck pain. You have indigestion. And you have symptoms all over the place. Serious, it's common for people to present symptoms all over the place. And you can't add them up together. Then the MRI and CT scan and ultrasound and X-ray and
shows.
blood test, nothing. So that is another way of presenting. And it's important to have these discussions so people will know that if you have that, it is something worthy of treatment.